Good afternoon or morning or whatever the time is wherever you are. Today is March 11, 2014 and we have already started spring as far as I am concerned. So, I have my blue outfit to match my eyes and my pink jacket to match my disposition. So you are welcome to join in that. I have talked on my tweet about family. What is a family? And what happens to people who maybe don't have the families that they want. And I don't think that most of us are born with exactly the perfect mother, father, brother, sister, grandparents, uncles, and aunts. And I understand that. I have met people whose families are getting along very well and there is a lot of love, but there is also a lot of anger. And I often receive emails from people. I just received one, and I do not like nasty, dirty words, but she was really angry with her family. And she said, okay, I'll make my own family. Well, you can. That's what I'm trying to talk. We choose because my make-believe family is people I like, who are friends. That's a lot easier to get along. And as I have been involved in trying to understand families and what happens to people who do not have families, who do not have loving parents, that is a very, very big problem in the world. I also like to joke about it because as we talk about having children, the saying goes that the older the children get, the bigger the problems. Now, that's a big issue. So when do we really enjoy our children? So now let's say the children are in college and they are finally on their own and then they're getting married and bigger problems. So now I would like to go backward. The smaller the children, the bigger the joy and the less the problems. And when do we really enjoy the children? If we really want to be abrupt about it and fair and truthful, is probably, hopefully, when we create them. Just a little joke here, okay? Hopefully. But I have come across a lot of people who have great difficulty with their families. And if I may say so, probably at least 50 to 75% of people's problems come from having unhappy families. I think I loved my mother and I think she was terrific, but my father I could have taken or leave it because he was not a very supportive father toward me. He was very strict, very demanding. And he didn't really like me. Now, what do you do if you are a child in a family that they don't like you? I was the black sheep in the family. But I can also tell you, because I was the black sheep in the family, that I learned, my father told me so, that I should have been born a boy. Well, I was happened to be born a girl. I was the youngest of 4 daughters and the youngest of the twins. I remember being 5.5 years old and hearing my father say that. I said, but I have nothing to do with it. I did not understand reproduction, but I knew I didn't have anything to do with it. So I told him it wasn't my fault, and he got very mad at me. So he set me up for problems just about every day, and I learned to outsmart him, and I learned to defy him, which ultimately was the training ground for my survival at Auschwitz. Would I have never been treated by my father the way I was, I don't think Miriam and I would have survived Auschwitz. So I can see the merit in it. But I remember comparing notes with Miriam after the war, and I said, what do you remember about Daddy? She said, oh, he was wonderful. I said, excuse me? Did we have the same father? What was so wonderful about him? or he would tell me, put me on his lap and tell me stories about his visit to Palestine. I said, Miriam, the only time I saw his lap is when he pulled out the belt to belt me. These are all two different experiences. So I realized that there are children in certain families that are being picked on by one parent or the other or by both. And my mother would always say, what do you want from this little girl? She's just a little girl. But that's the way it was. So now, talking about the idea that after the war, of course, my mother was gone, my father, my two older sisters, grandparents, uncles, cousins, aunts, and the biggest problem that I had as I was raising my own family, and then actually my daughter being 2 or 3 and my son being 3 and 4 and 5 and going to birthday parties, and there were always other children with grandparents, with uncles and aunts. My children had nobody. So my son Alex would ask, how come I don't have a grandma or a grandpa? Rena said, where is my grandmother? Don't I have one? I said, no, you don't, because my husband is also a survivor of the Holocaust, and his parents were murdered. So they said, but where are they? I said, well, there were these bad guys, the Nazis, who murdered them. Oh. So in order to try to remedy that, the family, my husband was liberated by an American lieutenant colonel from Terre Haute, Indiana, and his name was Andrew Neff. And Andrew Neff and Mrs. Neff said, okay, we will be your children's make-believe grandparents. So the make-believe grandparenting started way some 49 years ago. And they filled in the job of make-believe grandparents very well. So Rena and Alex would say, well, I don't have real grandparents, but I have make-believe ones. And that was serving the purpose, and they would buy them gifts for their birthdays and sometimes take them for a while to babysit. It was a very good substitute, and they were wonderful people. And as I am now in my 80s, and I remember about 21 years ago, I was flying out of Israel after Miriam's death. I went to visit her grave, and I got to my seat, and there was a gentleman sitting right by the window with blinders on his eyes to be able to sleep. And I said, oh, how on earth did you get that good seat by the window? And he said, well, I got here earlier. I got the good seat. I said, oh gosh, I wanted that seat. So he told me years later, he said, I knew it was going to be a long flight, much longer than just the time. But we became very good friends. His name is Shlomo Rotter. He is an Israeli who was born in a DP camp 67 years ago. So he was probably, would be 1947. And his parents were refugees running away from Hitler. As they got back to Poland, there was no places for them to stay, so they were in a refugee camp. And we got along very well on the trip, and I told him, I really like you. I said, I wish I had a brother like you. So he said, well, okay, I'll become your make-believe brother. Now that's been 21 years ago. And we have gotten along very well. He came to the United States, stayed at my house. I went to Israel and visited with him and his wife. And his wife is a scientist at the Chaim Weizmann Institute. And so and he went with me. I told him about it in 1993 that I came to see my sister's grave, but that I met a Nazi doctor by that time, because I met Dr. Munch in August, and this was November of 1993, and he said, was very interested in the story. So he said, I want to go with you to Auschwitz in 1995, and he did. And he was very interested in Dr. Munch's life story. He speaks perfect German and also Hebrew and English. And so he is now writing a book about what he has learned in researching Dr. Munch. So that is number one extended family, or make-believe family. We could call it MBF, make-believe family. Then I was lecturing to a high school teacher who is teaching German, and I was told that she was very traumatized by the Holocaust because kids in school as she was growing up called her Nazi girl. But she was born in the United States. Her father was in the German army during the war. He was in the Wehrmacht, actually. I don't know if he was a member of the SS, but he was in the Wehrmacht. And she said she never understood what even the word Nazi meant. When she asked her parents, they said, oh, let's not talk about it. So I lectured at her school, and I told her that she doesn't need to feel guilty for anything that happened, since she was not even alive at that time, much less be responsible for it. I said, we are all responsible if we see something wrong in life and we do not stand up against it. Then it's our responsibility to take some action. But since she wasn't even alive, why? And so I told her, you are free from any guilt. And she said, you mean I don't have to feel guilty about the Nazis? I said, no. And she appreciated that so much. She said, well, I sure wish I had a sister like you. I said, I need a sister. Miriam died, so let's become sisters. And her name is Gunda Vaughn, and she lives in Texas. Then in 2006 or 2008, I think, the book Surviving the Angel of Death was published, and we had a lady doing publicity for us. She was a reporter in New York, and she did a fantastic job. It's there on YouTube. If you can go on YouTube, you can find her publicity for Surviving the Angel of Death. She researched it, she added music and words to it. And I said, you have done a fantastic job. And we talked a lot, and she said to me, well, I really would like to go with you. Your trips, wherever you are going, they sound so adventurous and so exciting. But I said, I will be actually in Atlanta, Georgia, for a lecture at the university. And she was in Atlanta at that time. She said, well, I would love to meet you. And then I met her. Her name is Gianna Gorel. She said, you look just like my Jewish grandmother. This lady is a black lady. I said, excuse me? She said, well, my grandfather met Cliff, who was a Silver Star recipient for running with Jesse Owens at the 36 Olympics in Berlin. He married a little Jewish woman from Russia. And you look just like my Russian grandmother. Can I call you grandma? I said, sure. Wonderful, since I don't have any grandchildren. So that is the way I got, and she called me grandma all the time. And then when we went to Israel, because I said, okay, I'm going to Israel to meet with some of the survivors and do a documentary in December of 2011. So we had the reporter, Patrick Fazio, who's a nice-looking young man, a white man, and there was a board member, Tana Srulovich, and another board member, Bob Bruce. And Gianna kept calling me grandma. So Patrick said, I want to be your grandson too. I want to call you grandma. So we had suddenly, and I like them both. I have to know the people and I have to like them. So now we have Patrick and Gianna, grandchildren, and Bob Bruce decided he will be Uncle Bob. It fit his demeanor. And then Tana cousin Tana. So we have now 2 grandchildren, a cousin, an uncle, a sister, a brother. But I really like Keel, who is my executive director. And so when he was very sick, I wanted to write him a very meaningful letter. And I said, if I ever had a grandson, since I don't, I do have 2 children, Alex and Rena, but they haven't produced any grandchildren. I'm not putting any pressure on them. I know Rena said she didn't want any children, that's okay. Alex, I am looking for a suitable candidate to be a daughter-in-law, but so far I haven't found any, so I am displaying it here. Anybody wants to be my daughter-in-law and marry my son? He's a terrific guy. He's a doctor at Johns Hopkins, one of the best places to work. And so I told Keel Majeski, my executive director, that if I had a grandson, biological grandson, I would like it to be just like him, smart, caring, good-looking. And would he be willing to be my make-believe grandson? So he said, sure. So now I have 3 grandchildren. I think it's working out wonderfully. The difference, as I said before, by having a real family, you cannot choose them. The make-believe family, you can choose yourself. And hopefully they want to be a part of your make-believe family. Then I have toyed with the idea that it would be fantastic to have a little meeting of kind of a union, because not a reunion, these people have never met before, of a make-believe family. That would be a lot of fun. So maybe in my long plan, I should take them, all of them, to Auschwitz. I have taken Gianna, I have taken Keel, I have taken Patrick, so the 3 grandchildren gotten to go. And I did go with Shlomo Rotter in 1995. It will be 20 years next year. Now, Bob has gone with me also, and Tana has gone with me. Only Kunda didn't go with me to Auschwitz. Everybody else went with me to Auschwitz. Now, if I could do it at the same time, that would be a union. But this is, I just want to really emphasize that you can make your own life, your own family. Try to treat those of your real family that are not as congenial as you would like them to be. Try to explain to them that you are going to get along with them, but you don't have to be as dedicated, because some family members aren't nice. I know that some people I bet you my father would not like me today. I know for a fact. Because he wanted me to be a boy, which I am never going to be, and he wanted me to be very, very religious, which I cannot really be. So we are who we are. I hope, last year when we were in Auschwitz, and those of you who went with me, I have written 2 letters. One, a letter of forgiveness to my mother, and a letter of forgiveness to my father, and they are very, very deep, moving letters. I wish I had them here with me. Can we make a stop? I can go grab my letters and read them to them so they would know. So here is a letter of forgiveness and goodbye to my father. Dear Papa, you were very mean, Papa, to me. You were angry with me that I was not a boy. That was not my fault, as I told you 74 years ago, and you knew that I was right, but you belted me daily because you found an excuse to blame me for your problems. I was just a little girl, and Mama kept telling you to leave me alone, but you didn't. I learned to outsmart you and defy you, which came in handy once we were in Auschwitz. Do you remember when I was 8 years old and I told you, Papa, to escape to Romania, which was only 1 hour by foot from our house? You said that I was a little stupid kid who did not know or understand the important problems we faced. Papa, I was a smart kid who was very much in tune with my surroundings, but you didn't think so. I forgive you, Papa, for not escaping to Romania. I forgive you, Papa, for all the beatings and hardship you put me through. It made me strong enough to survive Auschwitz. You were never nice to me, but I forgive you for that too. I am sure you did the best you knew how. I am sorry that you were never seemed to be happy. I hope you are happy up there. I loved you, Papa, and I wanted you to love me too. I was a girl. I am happy and strong person today. I am not religious. That was never my way. But you knew that. I do say Kaddish, which is a prayer for the dead, for you, which you wanted me to do. Goodbye, Papa, I love you. Letter to my mother. A letter of forgiveness and goodbye to my mother. June 27, 2013, Auschwitz, Poland. 69 years ago, when we were in the ghetto, you were very depressed. I knew you felt guilty that we did not escape to Palestine in 1935, when Papa and Uncle Aaron wanted to go. Uncle Aaron did go. We stayed in port because you loved your mother, Grandma Hirsch, and did not want to leave her, and you had 4 little girls, less than 5 years of age, and could not figure out how you would get along. I wish that we did go. But I forgive you, Mama. You did the best that you knew how. You did all that from loving us. You were the best Mama any child could wish for. You taught me to love, to try to be happy, cheerful, hopeful, caring, and giving. I think that you would be proud of me. As you might know, Miriam died 20 years ago. I am the only one of your 4 daughters alive today. It has been 69 years since I have seen you. I remember the Nazi soldiers pulling you away from us. Miriam and I were crying, so were you, and your arms were stretched out in despair. I never got to say goodbye to you. But I did not know that this would be the last time I would see you. So goodbye, Mama. I missed you all my life. Never again did I have a mama, and no one could have taken your place. I was so lucky to have you as my mama for 10 years of my life. You disappeared into the confusion, the crying, and I was scared. I was a scared kid, but I had to be strong for Miriam, and I was, and we survived Auschwitz. I am a happy person who is working hard to prevent other little children from being ripped apart from the loving arms of their mothers, the way we were 69 years ago here on that selection platform. Goodbye, Mama. I love you.